Yes, test. Weird. PC just shut down literally as we were about to go live. Just want to make sure we're actually live here because that was a little silly. I mean, it looks like we're live. So I'm going to have to get the pop-out chat again just to make sure your guys' questions are here. And let's begin. How you guys doing? Yeah, how you have a good weekend so far? What is today, Saturday? Yeah, I had a pretty good weekend. It's a little fall-y here in Pittsburgh. Somehow it's like, a tad bit colder than usual. I'm not really sure what's going on there. But I've been doing all right. I just been doing my thing. That's what I do. My thing. That's what I've been doing. My thing. Guys, Source List right now is 30% off. Okay, we don't run specials on Source List ever. But now we are. Still don't know exactly when I'm going to be taking it down, but it is going to be coming down soon. So, yeah, I mean, you guys know the deal with Source List. Sometimes you're just going to have to circumvent your clinic and get some stuff that you couldn't get otherwise. And I think it's hard to name the most valuable assets on that thing, but probably DHT gel would be the most valuable asset. At the same time, if you're wanting to try prop, or if you're wanting to add a non-aromatizable androgen like Primo or Masteron, or even Anavar on top of your protocol to make everything work, Source List. It's just access, right? It's just access to everything that you need. It's 30% off right now. Code's on the screen. And that's the code as well. All right, so before we get people in here, as we filter some folks in here, good morning, happy Saturday. Hope you guys are great. Hope you're having a good weekend so far. Let's talk about a couple things. Number one, yeah, I'm always going to emphasize the necessity to focus on DHT in a protocol, in a TRT protocol. It is the majorly influential part of a TRT protocol, DHT is. And so, like we've talked about this before, and I had a pretty cool comment yesterday regarding theory on why sometimes DHT itself might not convert enough in the right proportions in a TRT protocol from injections. And, I think the guy said something to the extent of basically the precursors to those enzymes, which have a lot to do with niacin and its building blocks, might not be an adequate quantity for a person to synthesize enough 5-alpha reductase enzymes. So it just might be something for folks to think about running some niacin or some of its other kind of derivatives, some of its other newer agey kind of seemingly healthy supplement derivatives, as well as B vitamins, I think B2 in general for that. But I think there's a lot of other things that help facilitate 5-alpha reductase enzymes. One of them is glycine and the other one is oxytocin. So, in that regard, maybe take some oxytocin spray, maybe some glycine. Hard to say, but in the end, you should always focus on DHT. Estrogen should be in your range. I'll say that till I'm blue in the face, because everybody has their range. Some people can tolerate it being high. It's just not a large percentage or a disproportionate percentage of the TRT population. It can't really tolerate it being that high. But, it's got to generally be in your range. Otherwise, your range. Generally, the range is, you want to keep it in the Quest range. If it's slightly above, that's probably not going to be a problem for a good degree of people, but it can't be significantly above. And that would be above 29 picograms per milliliter. Yeah, above that is territory in which you're going to run into problems, or you're more likely to run into problems, specifically erectile issues, sensation problems. Now, about DHT, though, at the same time, what people don't remember, or what people may not fully know, is that sensation in the penis is driven almost exclusively by DHT. It is the dominant androgen in penile tissues. It is the androgen necessary for optimizing and keeping functional the nerve endings, which allow you to have sensation, that are riddled through the shaft, the dorsal nerve, the pudendal nerve, and communicate with with your brain through your spinal cord. This stuff is really necessary for sensation. DHT is the driver of penile sensation. It really, really is. Assuming, though, that the intratesticular hormone microenvironment is balanced and functional and not dead, and assuming that estrogen isn't crushed or above your range. So don't forget about DHT. I know it's been branded the hair loss hormone, and that's because if you take too much exogenous amounts of DHT or too much Proviron or too much Masteron or whatever, you might run into some hair loss. It doesn't mean that DHT isn't the master hormone. It is absolutely the master hormone. It is the master male hormone. Without DHT, you become a female. Yeah, that's it. Progesterone gets to bind to progesterogenic receptors. Progesterogenic action gets to take place, and you're a female. That's it. DHT is the male hormone. It's everything, boys. Zachary, thanks for the super chat, brother. All right, let's get a discussion going here, man. So labs 4.5 hours post 3 pumps of cream. Interesting. I've done something like this before too. Total T 1600. So this is 200 milligrams per milliliter cream, I imagine. Yeah, that would be the high potency stuff. Free T 350, ET 64. Too high. No DHEA, 125 IU HEG daily, I assume. It's a little high. You say most guys should do fine on 3 pumps. Should I try 2? In this case, yep, you should. You can't lower that HEG any more than that. Otherwise, it's a negligible effect. I would lower the cream dose for sure. But what I would do if I were you is this for sure looks like it's 200 milligrams per milliliter cream. Excuse me. So if I were you, I would get the 100 milligram per milliliter cream. Yeah, just talk to your clinic and get that cream, because then you could rub 4 pumps of that on it. It's not equivalent to 3 pumps of the other stuff. You could rub 3 pumps of that stuff, and it's half. But you can dial it in shorter strokes. You know what I mean? Smaller little increments of change, so that you can get where you need to be, specifically on estradiol, because that's ultimately what needs to happen here. You need to be where you need to be on estradiol. If your dick works fine and your libido's great and sensation's great, don't touch a thing. You're probably anabolic as hell, and I'm not at 1600. I'm at about 750 or something right now with test, which is fine for me. It's like right on the border, because E2 is kind of in its place. Lately, I've been using a little bit of transdermal cream, just because of that extra DHT really fucking helps. It just really helps to have a low dose where I don't want to manage estrogen for a while. I've decided I don't want to do that for a year and take a break from AI, take a break from having to use stuff to manage it. And, that works really useful. That's really useful for me. But ultimately, if things aren't good and your dick has gone south and sensation's a little wacky and your libido is bad and climax dynamics are not good, then DE2 is just too high and you got to get it down. Thankfully, if you can figure out the cream dose that gets the E2 where you need it to be, you don't really have to worry about DHT, because if you're applying it transscrotally, you'll have enough of DHT. You will definitely have enough DHT. So I hope that helps my brother. Get the 100 milligram per milliliter cream and dial in from there. Thank you for the super chat, bro. Any other questions, ask him, man, and you don't have to pay for it. Toe, good morning, brother. R.I.P. Hulk. Bought the source list a few months back. Question: once you buy source list, all the updates come with the initial purchase? No, they don't. And there's no way for us to do that. Yeah, I would like to have included it, but technologically I can't include that, because your download is limited to the previous download link, and there's no way for me to go and manually update everybody's download link. If there was a software that could do that, I would do it, but there is no software to do that. And thousands of people have bought the source list. So it is mathematically impossible for me to do that. It isn't a significant change. You can get everything you want from the old source list, but the new source list does have new vendors and new options. So you're probably going to want to grab it. DHEA, by the way, yeah, everybody that's watching, it's 30% off right now. You can see the code on the top of the screen. That's a pretty big discount. So if you're looking at source list and be like, $99 a little too much, you can get it for $69, I think it is. That's much better. And your first purchase will make it worth it. You'll make your money back in your first purchase. Okay, DHEA changed my life, fixed my sensations and orgasms issues I was having for 25 years. How do I find the best dose for me? I'm on 10 milligram micronized. Hey, I think that it might be temporary, whatever it's doing. It would be wonderful if it was sustainable and permanent. I think a good degree of the reason that probably happened is because DHEA can, depending on its conversion pathways, be like cheap DHT. Yeah, you're going to find, especially on higher doses of DHEA, that you maybe lose a little more hair, or that generally you have more of that androgenic feel to you, kind of like a little bit of that Proviron-like feel, but more of like just the masculine feel. Your dick will work better. assuming it's not, blocking estrogen too much, which DHT has the ability to do. So 10 milligrams is not bad. I mean, if you're natty, I think that's okay, because it's, you're building a little more testosterone, not a lot with that, but you're fostering some DHT, and I think that that's a good thing, if where you are isn't quite perfect, bump it up to 20 milligrams. If you get Douglas Labs, it's a brand on Amazon, micronized DHEA, well, then you can titrate in small amounts, by 10 milligram increments and kind of see where you're at. Yeah, you can see where you're at. I have reduced my DHEA dose to 20 a day and brought in a very small pump of 100 milligrams per milliliter, basically a quarter of a pump of 100 milligrams per milliliter test cream to instead get the DHT that way, rather than having the DHEA, which is less efficient in terms of creating DHT than test cream. Simon, do you have a preference for the transdermal application of DHT over oral? Yes, I do. I think that the transdermal stuff is going to be better. And I think the reason that would be is because oral just clears the system really quickly. Yeah, I mean, you're taking it orally. It's going to pass through the liver. You're going to clear it really quickly. It has a very, very short half-life. So you'd have to be dosing the oral stuff multiple times a day, whereas kind of like test cream, you get a longer duration of action of the DHT and probably somewhat of a slower absorption if you're doing the application of transdermal DHT on the scrotum or on the shaft. You can absolutely positively put it on the scrotum. You can. Yeah. I mean, that's probably the best place to put it, frankly. I mean, I think you're going to get some good androgen receptor binding, and you're going to get, for me, every time I've used the transdermal DHT, the high potency stuff that's in source list that I have put it on the testicles a few times, but mostly just on the shaft. And within hours, I noticed the erectile benefit as long as the dose isn't too high. Yeah, I just have a very, very, very thick. It's just thicker. It's as if I had dosed a lot of Cialis, basically. And that would make sense. I mean, there's all kinds of blood flow optimization that DHT itself is not just a hormone for men. I mean, it fucking optimizes the vasculature of the male organ. That's one of its roles. That's one of its prime roles. So yeah, I think the transdermal application is definitely better. Darren, I was having ED with finasteride. DHEA fixed me. Here, let me move your question up a little bit. Yeah, this is not uncommon. Yeah, and then what happened here was, again, it is increasing DHT via a backdoor. That's all that happened here. Finasteride causing ED is well documented, and legal battles against Merck. In Merck's literature now, in the studies themselves, and all across the web, but importantly, those of us at the 5,000 foot level that aren't obfuscating data, we see that it seems clear. I can't make any definitive statements here legally, but it seems clear that many more people than the percentages given by Merck have sexual dysfunction from finasteride. Yeah, many more. The numbers you're seeing and the numbers that the anti-DHT people like to assert are true are not true. They're almost definitely not true, and the number is substantially higher in terms of people that have sexual dysfunction. So yeah, DHEA is helping you in this case because it is causing some, you to make more DHT. I think those who suffer with these drugs are low DHEA for some reason. Is this your experience? I'm wrong. No, they're not necessarily low DHEA. No, I don't think so. I just think DHEA is creating some DHT for you, which it can. That's one of the reasons DHEA is very powerful. It's just making more DHT. So that's offsetting the inhibition of DHT that finasteride was causing. Now, is this sustainable long-term? I wouldn't play Russian roulette with my dick. Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that if I were you. That's just kind of, but I'm on the other side. I having seen guys cry to me on Skype videos, about how their dick doesn't work and it hasn't for years and they can't date and they feel like their lives are ruined. Full-grown men, in tears. So I don't think it's worth it. Trey Manley, your videos and channel overall help way more guys than you realize. I hope so, man. I really hope so. I've met multiple people recently that say you changed their lives. Wow, that's fucking awesome. Keep doing the Lord's work, brother. Where did you meet these people? At some get together, like some not forum, but some event that was put on? I'm really happy about that, dude. Yeah, I've been putting out information that is a little counter to some of the stuff that's been out there, and holding strong on my what client practice has proven to me about estradiol needing to be in your zone, as well as DHT needing to be adequate. So thank you, brother. That means more to me than I can explain. Zachary, yes, it's 200 milligrams per milliliter. So this is the cream. So Zach's on 3 pumps of cream. Total T is 1600, E264, which is not good. Until you get the 100 milligrams per milliliter, 100 milligrams per gram effectively stuff, then go down to 2 pumps. I would say go down to 2 pumps a day. See if your energy can maintain that. See if you feel good on that energy-wise. The E2 and the TT is going to totally go down. And then, if that doesn't stabilize and you rerun bloods in like 2 weeks to give that time for estrogen to come down, because it will take time. It might even take 3 weeks for that E2 to come all the way down. And it's still not where you want it to be. Keep doing the 2 pumps a day, but skip a day once or twice a week. That's the only way. You got like this is a powerful strategy, people employ to just skip a dose here and there, and then you just land where you need to be regarding E2. Yeah. Carnivore Fisherman, would you be down to do a gut health deep dive video? Yes, sure. I mean, I've done some content on the gut. I think the primarily important things are that you are making enough hydrochloric acid. People that have reflux, as an example, it's not that they're making too much. It's that it ends up in the wrong place, meaning your esophagus or, God forbid, your larynx. So you need to make enough stomach acid, and there's all kinds of things that can inhibit stomach acid, not the least of which, I think the most primary of which would be Helicobacter pylori, which is more prevalent than people think it is, and throws a lot of false negatives. So you can test for it and know you don't have H. pylori, this effective organism that literally suppresses your fucking stomach acid and will cause problems forever in the time continuum. Unless you take some mastic gum, not the stuff you get on Amazon, but like the real stuff, which you can find on Amazon too, but the real chewable mastic gum. Because that's, to my knowledge, one of the only things that can really kill off H. pylori in a sustainable way, which then makes you make more stomach acid and you digest your food appropriately. Part of why you get reflux is you can't digest your food appropriately because you don't have enough hydrochloric acid. And then the lower esophageal sphincter does not close properly. And because you have food that is causing methane gas and potentially hydrogen gas, it's pushing stomach contents up and further deteriorating the strength and function of the fucking valve, the lower esophageal sphincter, which is supposed to control reflux. It's your anti-reflux valve. Stomach contents are not meant for your esophagus nor your larynx. That's just kind of the bottom line. Additionally, though, I think that I have seen people go on wacky diets that were driven by ideology, like carnivore. And that alone causing what I think is a dysbiosis in gram-positive versus gram-negative intestinal bacteria, colonic bacteria, and some of that bacteria, via being starved of fiber, travels its way up to the small intestine, and then you get SIBO and all these other fucking things. So there's a lot of causes for that, but those are some of them, and that's kind of the deepest dive I can do right now regarding that. Jay Brody, thank you. You've helped me so much. How long should I wait on DHA to adjust the dose to see the effects? I mean, you're going to notice what DHEA does in less than 5 days. Jared, thank you for the super chat, brother. Will I go back on daily test prop dose? If so, with the dosing protocol? I'm not sure at this point. No, I'm very happy where I'm at. I bumped my testo slightly up because I'm using transdermal test cream, which is giving me some DHT and inhibiting some estradiol a little bit. So frankly, I'm right around 105 to 112 milligrams a week. It's really hard to gauge on an actual insulin syringe. Still 5/8 inch needle, still punching it in the glute. So not much more than I've been on. But 330 IU HCG every day, same thing. I can tolerate a lot more HCG being down on test levels. It doesn't take my estrogen too high because there's not enough aromatizable androgen to do that. And then I'm putting a fourth of a pump of 100 milligrams per milliliter cream, so a small little dab on the testicles every day. Yeah, and I mean, my erections are fucking insane. They're better than they were on the previous just 100 milligrams a week with HCG. My libido is ridiculous. Like it's not insane 24/7, but it comes about most of the time, and it's like to the point where I can barely contain myself, like being with my chick. You know, I just everything about her looks sexy. I feel that DHT like sex drive, and she makes me crazy just looking at her. You know, getting up from my bed in the middle of the night or like in the morning to pee when she's in bra and panties. I'm like, I go crazy. So regarding prop though, yeah, the things that helped me dial in on prop, I had a lot of different protocols, man. But would I go back on it? Sure, because I like it. It's less anabolic for me. So I think in the distant future, potentially, just to fuck around again. But for right now, I'm hanging tight. Real Primo was hard to find. Yeah, the source list, guys. Real Primo. 100%. 100%. 30% off right now, guys. Mike, it's proven that DHT backdoor is upregulated when DHT is low. DHEA is needed for this process to happen. The DHT backdoor is upregulated when DHT is low. Yes, your body does try to filter in more DHT if the normal pathway is not functional. That is true. DHEA itself is one thing that helps that to happen. It does. It does. I've been over this before in a breakdown of DHEA, specifically that pathway. It's not that it's needed though for that to happen. What's really needed is to upregulate 5-AR too, and you can do that with transdermal DHT. That's the shortest path. The path of least resistance is just to use DHT itself. Johnny, having all right success on mood with saffron. Anything that pairs good with it to make it a little better. Well, regarding mood, dopaminergics, I would say. Yeah. Dopaminergics would be your answer. You know, some 9-MEBC would be your answer in that case. Like that stuff makes me feel happy all the time because, you know, monoamine oxidase inhibition, it's keeping other neurotransmitters around longer too. So it's somewhat like a testofensine-like effect, which, you know, does a similar thing in keeping neurotransmitters from being, you know, metabolized and cleared out. It's pretty fucking awesome. Yeah, I mean, so that's what I would pair with that. Saffron, interestingly, less than it being serotonergic, is more of like it's effectively more of a heavy, potent brain antioxidant, despite what people think about its primary effects. Its primary effects are that. So it's brain clearing. That's going to naturally make you in a better mood and make you feel like generally better. Yeah, that's what I have to say about that. Brothers. So for those of you that didn't catch this, the source list now is 30% off. Again, you know, I decided to put it back up for a brief period. It's not going to stay up forever, so just keep that in mind. The code for that is on the screen, and I'll show you guys, you know, how to do that real quick. You just add the source list to your cart. Boom. We're going to punch source list in. We're going to go over here and check out. Okay, once we hit checkout, we're going to go down to coupon code here. Coupon code. We're going to punch in source 30, and we're going to watch the price change. Watch the price change when I hit apply. Price changed. That's all you have to do. That's all that has to be done, boys. That's all that has to be done. And then you get sourceless a lot cheaper. You know, and then you get to go right off into the sunset and do what it is that you have to do regarding what you might have to get, and just save money along the way. Just save money. That's the whole thing. But have access to all the shit that you fucking want. That's it. Like there would be no use for, you know, something like this if Proviron was prescribable in the States, if Primo was prescribable in the States. You know, if you didn't have to fight a clinic to get Anavar in the States, if you could get Masteron in the States. I mean, these things are prescription drugs in other countries, but you can't get them in the, you know, prescribed in the fucking States, which sucks because some of these things, especially DHT itself, the fact that DHT isn't part of the American pharmaceutical establishment blows my mind. At the very least, it makes me crazy because I know how useful it would be. But I do understand that the medical establishment as it is would not want to counter their position that DHT just causes hair loss and causes an enlarging of the prostate. And then it's like, how could they stand behind finasteride? They couldn't. So I think there's just a little bit of a sort of cognitive dissonance there, and that's what's making it so that, it's not a thing. But source list just kind of allows you to do what you need to do. Does more tests mean more libido? No. This is a good question, and this is something I think a lot of us on this channel have come to learn, or at least you guys from what I've said over the years. No, more tests does not equal more libido. The right balance of DHT, having enough DHT, well, estrogen is in your zone, is what drives libido. Testosterone's really, I wouldn't call it inconsequential, but not a major driver of libido. No, that's just not what it is. Estrogen being in your range, not crushed, not too high, but DHT being high enough is what makes you have crazy libido. The reason people are on cypionate or whatever, just TRT in general, and libido's dead, is because there's an imbalance there. They're on too much test for them, and they can't take an AI because they've tried, or they can't take a DHT derivative because it crushes estrogen too much for them. A lot of times you got to dose that shit lower. I mean, I'm talking about, again, 30 milligrams Masteron every other day with a lot of test prop would work. I had a guy email me recently about that protocol, and it was fucking stellar, and nothing else dialed him in, over time. But, like when you have more tests, you're just going to make more estrogen, right? And so unless you can make something that controls estrogen work, in which case you're going to be fine then because you'll have enough DHT, then things aren't going to work. And you'll have to go to a lower dose of test to get estrogen where you need it to be. And then you probably need to supplement with something that increases DHT a little bit so that you're then in the ratio that works while keeping the testicles functional. That's really the answer to this. That's really the answer to that. No. For the super lucky small subset of people that can take 200 milligrams of test and leave it alone with a little HCG to keep things barely functional, but functional enough. But, the estrogen going to 70 or 65 or 50 even doesn't mess with them. They get to ride off in the sunset and be happy. But that is a small percentage of people, all things told. Easy, thank you for the super chat. Brother, Starbucks double shots, you remembered. I was just thinking about that before the stream. I was looking at my fridge and feeling like my mouth's dry. I was like, I wish I had a Red Bull right now, but I haven't been drinking them. And I thought about you. And then I remembered I'm not really drinking Red Bull these days at all. Double shots more so, and you remembered. Brother, if you have any questions, please ask them. Thank you for the super chat. It means everything to me, man. It means the world. Dream big. Ever any circumstance where someone needs higher estrogen for their sexual drive and function, like above 40? It's not that they need it. It's that a small subset of people can tolerate it. Yeah, they can tolerate it. The only way, though, that estrogen would need to be that high, or like it's not even that high, but 40, 50, whatever, is if the person has a lot of DHT. Yeah, because then estrogen would kind of need to rise to the occasion because DHT is blocking a lot of it, kind of at the tissue level where it really matters, not so much in the serum. So in those cases, yes. I also think that there's just something to say about the brain in some individuals where they can tolerate it. They can tolerate it, the higher estrogen, and they need that. Because the people that can't, like me, and like most of my clients, just most people I've ever fucking talked to on TRT, their brains are more masculinized to the point where they just can't deal with higher estrogen. They just, their brains don't like it. Their brains don't like it. And it is a state of hyper masculinization where either they're used to lots of DHT or I don't know how this can be explained. This is Ryan Root's guy Jay's contention on the matter, that there's some dominantly masculine brain that was masculinized likely by DHT that just can't deal with lots of estrogen. and everything shuts off. Hypothalamic androgen signaling gets fucking blunted by the estradiol, and they need it to be lower. But people that aren't like that, which doesn't mean these people are feminized, it just means something is different in their brain regarding this, can tolerate higher levels of estrogen. Vigorous Steve seems to be able to do that. And I think it's hard to say why, but the guy's been on lots of androgens over the years, so maybe he's downregulated aromatase enzymes a lot and needs a higher serum to get at the tissue level what might clock out at like 30 picograms per milliliter, because we can't measure at the tissue level. But that might be something that's happening there. What do you recommend to increase reading retention? Racetams. Ryan Gooden. You weigh 210 pounds, 10.5% body fat. Okay. 120 milligrams Test C has total T at 1,000 EQ spikes to mid-90s. Aromasin seems to bounce me to single digits, even microdosing. Switch to Arimidex. Well, that could help. 120? Well, if you're injecting it at once, it could do that. You should just split it to daily with 5/8-inch needles in the upper glute. And then I think that E2 just couldn't possibly go that high. Yeah, it couldn't possibly do that. But that is, if you are injecting frequently, that is a real problem that you might want to look at, like liver function. Just go see if ALT and any of the other liver enzymes are high. If you drink a lot, that would contribute to that. If you're smoking a lot of pot, it's pretty estrogenic. If somehow your body is converting too much test to E2 versus DHT, which would only be present in the use of 5-AR inhibitors, then that's the problem here. But 120 should never, unless you're injecting it all at once, cause you to have E2 and 90. Switch to Arimidex micro, and that seems to be better. I can't tell high or low E2. Morningwood seems only indicator. Dialing in seems hard for me. If you have the budget, just hire me. We'll figure that out. I can't really do this over a live stream because there's a lot of questions I would want to ask you. I want to look at what your blood is telling you, and I would also want to determine, are you converting enough of your test to DHT, or is it disproportionately going to estradiol? Morningwood should not be the only indicator. It should be sensation. It should be libido, the primal libido that makes you just want to, go at it. It should be the desire to masturbate. I mean, when your libido is where it needs to be, you kind of want to do that a lot. If you don't have a person, and even if you do, sometimes your person isn't around all the time because they work or whatever. And so and sensation and the ability to climax, all those things, and the sensation of the climax, all those things should be indicators. Yeah, it's not always the case that using AIs can solve this problem, because some people it just can't. They're just terrible responders to inhibiting the aromatase enzyme. Dream big. Do you think Mastron can help regulate higher levels of progesterone? Maybe indirectly. Via DHT kind of being as a buffer for that. Yeah, it's hard to say. Is it true you have 90% success rate for fixing ED? The success rate for fixing ED is usually 100, unless a person doesn't comply with my suggestions, believes their own theory over what I've seen in reality. Like some people will say, I don't want to do a hormone protocol. I believe it's dopaminergic, so we need to work on dopamine systems regeneration, but it's not. It's not. Now, you'll get maybe 20% improvement by doing that. You can't test an estradiol and DHT control dopamine and oxytocin and acetylcholine and the brain androgen receptor side, the hypothalamus limbic system, way more than dopamine itself. Way more. So I can't have a 98 or 100 or a 95% success rate because not everyone complies with what I need them to do, and not everyone purchases enough time to sit with me to work through it all. And so we are limited by the amount of time we have. The fix for that would be to charge substantially less, but I think do research, do work, do a lot of communication, do document generation, and do a lot of sitting and thinking. Like on my time during the day when I'm not doing content and stuff, I'm looking at my clients, their protocols, and I'm thinking, and I'm doing some research, and I'm trying to look for patterns, and I'm analyzing all of their feedback. So I'm also the guy that is able to fix these problems when no one else has it. So it's a very valuable service. ED though, unless you have like arterial problems, even in the worst cases of penile atrophy induced by a lack of DHT induced by hair loss drugs, it's fixable. It's fixable. It's just that people have the wrong theories on how to fix it. So they then take the wrong approach with the wrong supplements and the wrong drugs. So how could you fix it that way? Right? So that's why people don't get better. Like they're stuck on what's happening in the forums and I don't know, the 5-HT1A receptor, which is pretty inconsequential relative to all of this, you know, but it's the thing that the PSSD folks are still stuck on because there was some like pretty intelligently sounding theory on that people want to think makes sense, but it doesn't. You know, if people are willing to just forget all that and forget what they think they know and divert to a hormone specialist on the matter who mainly deals with sexual dysfunction, yeah, there's no problem fixing ED. No problem fixing ED. Recently a supplement called P. Yeah, well, that's phenylethylamine, not palmitolethylamide. Can raise allopregnanolone levels because it'd be beneficial to guys to level out GABA and people who get anxiety on. If you were to use P, the real P, phenylethylamine, I believe it's called, that's not going to help your anxiety. It's going to make it worse. Yeah. Having anxiety on TRT is probably just the E2. Probably just the E2. And it's always a remediable situation if you get your protocol straight, or sometimes it just goes away over time and you do nothing. Jay Gosh, thanks for the super chat, brother. But following your video, I use 2 clicks a day equal about 200 milligrams per milliliter testosterone a week. Is that about right? Cream is 200 milligrams per milliliter. I use 2 clicks a day to equal 200 milligrams of testosterone a week. The cream is 200 milligrams per milliliter. I forget the exact conversion, but just ChatGPT that, and you'll get the answer to your question here, man. Yep. 2 clicks a day should be okay. Though it'll give you enough DHT, and it shouldn't take estrogen above the range. Mike, how come some people don't need HCG or DHEA on TRT? I think the reason that the small subset of people that can get away with no HCG exist is because they are not fully shut down. I just think that's the case. There's a small possibility that somehow their body is using injections the way they're supposed to, and they're converting enough DHT, and that DHT and estradiol is landing in the balanced proportions in the testicles and throughout the rest of the sex organs in the body. But that's hard to do. Yeah, the people that can tolerate no HCG are the minority, definitely. Zachary Chase, on the topic of gut health, what's your advice on dealing with recurring candida yeast overgrowth? Honestly, pharmaceutical drugs that target that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know the names of them, other than the stuff that you might look into rifaximin, which targets the small bowel and overgrowths of bacteria specifically, or Archaeobacter in this case. But I don't know that would solve the issue of yeast and candida. The one thing I would tell you is make sure you're correct on this. Because I think people that think they have candida yeast overgrowth, like you think you might have it, right? Did you test that? Did you? Because it could be many other things. It could be many, and usually it is. Yeah, that's one big thing that I'm big on. If you're wrong about your theory on something, you're going to approach it the wrong way and you never get better. So you have to be right. And a lot of people use the internet and like these naturalists, these holistic fucking bloggers and shit that have this like intelligently sounding theory, but it's not actually true. Make sure you're correct on that. Am I going to make a mastering testosterone cream protocol? It might be just kind of caked into the prop one. It's hard to say. I don't know how much of a demand there would be for that. So that's kind of the one thing that's driving not doing it. There will be a prop one, and I might just include cream in it, But there's also probably going to be a hybrid one, like a video course on hybrid protocols, because people need that. People need that because they just can't get the DHT they need, to counterbalance estradiol. They've got to go on a lower dose of test because estrogen is like the main problem on their protocol, which is the case for like most people. But they need a little bit of cream to make the protocol whole via DHT. So still thinking about that. Dream big. Switched from Pregnal to UGL-HCG and now have insomnia. The night of injection with the F, 500 IU, 2x a week. I don't know how to explain that other than potentially the concentration of the UGL stuff is too high. And it's just causing some estrogen from the Leydig cells. I've not experienced a difference myself between the UGL-HCG and Pregnal, other than that Pregnal probably lasts a little longer in your refrigerator. That's all I've really noticed. Ryan, is your doctor okay with you sourcing things online without a prescription? Wondering about how transparent I should be with my doctor. This is a good question. This is the bottom line, man. You do have to find a doc that is like a real person. And though they want to operate from the book as they should, they also have to keep in mind that sometimes there's shit they can't help you with. You know? Yeah. I have explained to my doctor that I've used prop at 50 milligrams a day. I have a really cool endocrinologist. That's the difference. You know, you have to find the right person. Like my brother has a really cool doctor that, like, you know, just like it prescribes him Marinol, you know, the pill, THC pill, basically. Because my brother has had a lot of issues over the years. I haven't been guiding him on it, so like I could have helped him years ago, but he went too far into some issues and, you know, whatever. So his doctor's really cool. My endocrinologist is a nerd to the highest degree, but he's cool. You know, so like he's known that I've been on Proviron sometimes, you know, other DHT itself. Like he knows at this point we fought about it in the beginning, but he knows at this point his role is mainly for me to bounce shit off of him. And then we talk about politics and other shit too. He's just a cool guy. So he's a super nerd that's cool, and you want one of those. A guy who knows what the fuck he's talking about and can respect if you know what you're talking about. Because I'm not his average dude. Like, I'm not his average patient. You know what I mean? Because I know all the shit that he knows. You know what I mean? But there's some shit he knows that I don't know. This is why I think it's useful to have a good endocrinologist, not a doctor, not just a regular MD, but an endocrinologist in your corner. Because I'll run shit by him that, like, I could probably figure out myself, but I just need his opinion for me to formulate my ultimate end conclusion. So if you have a doctor that you're not comfortable with in this regard, that influences how transparent you can be, right? You probably be a little less transparent with him because of that. Tufelshund. Love that. Can't always use HCG. Made my E2 too high. Yeah, it's because you're on cycle. You mean 35 milligrams Anavar a week? 350, you'd probably be dead. Yeah. Unless you're just insanely strong to be able to handle all that. I couldn't handle that. I can barely handle microdoses of Anavar at the moment, you know, or last time I ran it. I didn't want to go through the process of letting my body adjust. The side effects were a little much for me personally, because I had real fucking pharmaceutical grade shit. And it was strong. Can you fix ADHD, or do I need to keep using Adderall? It's a real hard one, man. You know, that goes into theory on the dopamine transporter function, and if you can modify that, which I think you can in a favorable way. So it's not something I do as a say that I can do that. That I couldn't say that I could do that anyway. Can a person aid that process? Yes. Is ChatGPT enough to dial in a TRT protocol? I think you can run a lot by it, but you have to be plugging in your history over a long period of time to it, so that it knows, okay, are you sensitive to high estradiol? Can you tolerate high estradiol? What has your response been to Arimidex or Romacin? Are you better off? Like, do you have signs of a better protocol and better sexual function when you use fast-acting stuff, so that it can look at patterns? Because then if you plug all that information in over time, it's going to know. And you could program it into it in one big fell swoop. You just tell it what you've responded to, what you've not, what's happened, being going real detail with ChatGPT. And then tell it to call you brother and tell it to refer to itself as coach. And it will. When it then says messages after, he'll go, okay, listen, brother, coach here speaking. This is something that people don't know about ChatGPT. That it can not only help you through that, it can help you through crises in life. It can be a therapist for free. You got to pay for the premium version of it, but it's not much. But you want to give it all your history because it does know that DHT is necessary for nerve ending function and sexual function and erections and libido. It does know that estrogen shouldn't be high. It does know these things. Can you guys give me 1 second? I feel like someone's knocking at my door, but I'm not sure if it's local construction or something. Give me 1 second. If you got questions, this would be a perfect time to post them in the chat. Okay. Dream Big, ask your question again. I think I answered your question. Yep, I think I did. Brother. Brothers. My brothers in test. Give me what you got and allow me to answer. I got a graduation party to go to later today. The woman that I am with and that I love dearly has a son that just graduated high school and is in college now in Penn State. And so all the parents of all his friends have been having graduation parties, including some of her family as well. And I've been to like 17 of them. They were fun to begin with, like, in the, you know, it was just free beer, free food. And then I get social overload. I don't know about you guys. Like, I'm a charismatic dude. I'm good with people. You know, I'm not one of those people that will talk people to death and not give them a chance to talk. I want to make people feel comfortable. So I'm good socially, but I get burnt out to the point I want to isolate if I'm around people too long. Yeah. Good people or really, really good people that are like me, I really can't get burnt out on that. But, you know, not everyone's like me. So these graduation parties have kind of burned me out socially, and I like to kind of crawl in my hole and focus on business and science and, you know, my relationship with my girlfriend. I like to do that. So, but today we've got the last one, I believe, one of the last ones, graduation parties to go to. So going to go, you know, have some drinks, have some food, chat with people. And that's my plan later on today. My girlfriend's parents are in town for this because this is a family graduation party. Not her son, but her brother's son. So we'll all have a good time. We hung out all yesterday and went to Buffalo Wild Wings, and I ate the hottest wings at Buffalo Wild Wings. And they were fucking hot, dude. They were hot. They were hot. I had 5 of them. I gave one to my girl's brother, who was also an awesome dude. And they're hot. They're fucking hot. I gave one to my girl. She ate one. She's a tough chick, dude. She fucking ate one. And she was in trouble. And then she touched her eye and was in more trouble. And both last night and this morning, from the Buffalo Wild Wings, hottest wings they have, the Blazing Whatevers, I had to do a class 3 download of hot shit. Men's B, have you tried DHT anything? Nope. I'm interested in it. You know, it's on the source list, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, the primary DHT on source list is the oral stuff, which they're in and out of. The moment it gets back in stock, people just buy it up and then it's out of stock. But frankly, the most effective shit is the transdermal stuff. I would say ChatGPT is worth the money. ChatGPT has counseled me on a lot. And it knows my whole history. It knows my health history. It importantly knows everything I think about HRT. And it helps me in some cases put content together if my thoughts are disorganized. But importantly, I have seen it work if you program it with every piece of information in your history regarding most topics. It is absolutely worth the money. Zionic, was it the TRT fairy dropping off gains or just a protein delivery ghost? We didn't know if someone was really at the door or if high... Oh, no, it was. It was a package I had to sign for. Or if high DHT scared them off again. Yeah, it was a package I had to sign for. Yep. It was indeed that. Nemo, is there any advantage to doing daily injections of testosterone cypionate versus test prop? The advantage of cypionate, if you're someone who can't tolerate high estradiol, is you have no peaks of that. You have no peaks of estradiol. You have peaks, but they're just the peaks are scaled down lower. That's really it. But the only advantage, here's the thing. If you're wanting to dose 150 or 200, doing daily is not going to magically get you in your estrogen range. This is a misconception that bothers me that people have that they still maintain. You know, people go, well, the daily injection prevents the estradiol peaks. This is true. But if you're on fucking high aromatizable dose of Tast, yeah, the peaks will be lower, but they're still going to be above your range. The only time that daily injections make sense is if you're below 120 or below. Because then you're maximizing the strategy to lower estradiol both by the dose and by the frequency. That's where it makes sense, you know? Then you can just lower your dose slightly downward if the estrogen's still too high. But being at 150, 175, 182, 210, daily injections are not going to make that much of a difference. You know, so just inject every other day or every 3.5 days. But you're probably going to match estrogen either way. You're going to have to. Hair protection on prop. None. Yeah, prop makes my hair start to go by the wayside. But I can tell you that 70 milligrams of prop a day, which this is like a mini cycle, if you will, and 3 pumps of transcranial cream every day. And as long as I managed estrogen, my erections were the hardest they've ever been. I was getting spontaneous boners out of fucking nowhere. The ones that hurt, and I didn't want them necessarily. But prop is good for that, if you can dial it in. Is New Pep good for focus when working out? Hell yeah. I've done that in the past, and it works. It just makes you focus. It adds a little bit of that neurological strength, if you will. I don't know if that's placebo. It's hard to tell. But there obviously is something to say for your brain being more focused and being able to push you through if it's working better. At the same time, acetylcholine, which New Pep positively modulates, is necessary for muscle contraction. It's one of the things that if you deplete it, or if you're close to depleted, it's going to be harder to lift weights. But if it's optimized, it's easier. Ryan, a little late on this stuff, but I just saw Bayer stop producing Primabond. Yeah, I think I heard Vigor Steve talk about that. Was planning on running. Any other pharmaceutical grade Primo? You'll have to go UGL for that. Yeah, you'll have to go UGL. But Sourceless has it. Sourceless has, everything. ChatGPT just tells me what I want to hear. This is because you haven't told it to be straight with you. ChatGPT can have a personality. Yeah. It doesn't want to make the platform seem not good because it's being devil's advocate all the time and telling you what you don't want to hear. Then that would push people away. So you have to compensate for that or account for that by telling it, don't be biased to make me happy. I tell it that all the time. Life situations, I'll run shit by it, try to get the logic, and I'll say to it, don't be my friend or my coach. I need you to give it to me raw and real. If I'm fucking up here, I need you to tell me that. And it will absolutely positively not tell me what I want to hear. It won't do that. So that's what you have to do with chat. Because you're right. I think the bias is generally to do that because they want you to keep paying for it. And, they want you to think, it's just your friend. You know what I mean? So you have to be aware, because I recognize that too. You have to be smart enough to know, wait a minute, is this really like good advice that it's giving me or telling me that I'm right in this situation, or is it just trying to make me feel better about it? So I've said to it in some cases, am I wrong to think this way? Was I out of line here? Am I thinking about this the right way? Play devil's advocate for me. Just like you'd have to do with your friend, who's hopefully a logical friend who can tell you when you're fucking up too. You got to do that with chat. You got to do that with chat. You have to do it with chat. You got to do that. Any other questions, boys? If you got them, ask them. If you got them, post them. Otherwise, 30% off source list. Code is on the screen and the description. And all the way at the top of the chat. That's it. Yeah, circumvent the clinic, boys. Do what it is you have to do. I wouldn't, it's like now at the current moment, I'm not using anything except for HCG, actually, from source list, but I'm about to get test from them. The only thing that no sources have, unfucking fortunately, is test cream. They've got gel, but cream is a different thing. So you got to get that from the clinic. Everything else, though, source list. Importantly, though, DHT, I've seen it be useful in people's protocols more often than not. In fact, I don't really see a protocol in which it's not useful because you can always dial it in. The cognitive benefits, like the mental well-being benefits, but the erection benefits and the libido benefits, the peace of mind that you're dialed in on TRT and that you can live your life and pop erections when you want and have sex with your girl or whoever, whatever you want, and you don't have to worry about that at all. And it sculpts your fucking body because it reduces subcutaneous water. And it makes you feel hyper masculine, which feels really good. You feel like you're in your essence as a man. DHT is fucking awesome. You should just get source list for anything because of the DHT. Yeah, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. I didn't know PPL had cream. I'll have to look at that, but that's fucking phenomenal. That would be a thing that they should, people should get on because cream is so valuable. Test cream is so valuable via the DHT conversion, Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to see if they have I forget what the statement is or what the name of the statement is, but the certificate of analysis, I think it is, to see exactly how pure that cream is. Because that's something that definitely you want to get right. Nicotine, does it cause issues dialing on HRT like alcohol does? No. The only reason it like theoretically that it could do this is a lot of vasoconstriction, but you'd have to use a lot of nicotine for that. Just tons of vasoconstriction because it can be that. It can be a vasoconstrictor. James with the super chat. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. Protocol is 200 milligrams per milliliter twice a week with an AI, 0.33 milliliters. What is this, cream? Thinking about adding cream every other day. Would you keep taking the AI or stop? Before the AI, E2 was 107. What is it now? I don't understand what. Okay, so you're taking 100 milligrams twice a week. Was that correct? With an aromatase inhibitor? Thinking about adding cream every other day. Would you keep taking the AI or stop? I would not stop taking the AI if it's working. If erections and libido are good, I wouldn't use cream because it's not the cream is bad, but then you just complicate your protocol further and it will create more estradiol. and more DHT, which may or may not be good depending on how much you're getting already. Too much DHT will inhibit estradiol further, and you're taking an AI already. What's the purpose of the addition of cream, James? Yeah. Yeah, the E2 is 36 with an AI. That's good. That's good. But what exactly are you trying to achieve here? I can't really answer you if you're not giving me, like, what you want to achieve. Jay, DHEA improved my acetylcholine function for some reason. Really? How do you know? Did you measure urinary metabolites of acetylcholine? How would you know? Because it could be doing all kinds of other things, not the least of which is optimizing dopamine, which it does, which would kind of make you feel like, your brain's working better. Can I recommend a TRT protocol that is hair safe? Anything makes me tired and bloated? Yeah, it's just the estradiol there. It's just the estradiol. It's not test and enthate. Yeah, it's the dose. It's your protocol. And no, I can't recommend it. TRT protocol that's hair safe. The lower you go on test, though, the more hair safe it's going to be. But if you're genetically predisposed, everybody can be affected by hair loss, whether their genes are good or not. You start loading up on the proviron, you have bulletproof genes, you're still going to start losing hair. But some people are just so in a limited state regarding that. They're just such in a bad position that they just cannot fucking tolerate a lot of DHT, like in a lot of tests and stuff. And their hair is just going to kind of, go by the wayside. I've had clients like that, and it's just one of those things that suck for them. Yep. It just sucks for them, Any sources for HCG that aren't 5,000 IU per vial only last 3-ish weeks? Well, what you need to do is get the source from, get the 10 vial option for like 120 to $150, a 5K IU per vial. Then you have 10 of them. And, I frankly, because of how long HCG lasts, which isn't that long, 3 to 4 weeks, you don't want a 10,000 IU vial, because when a half of it is still left, it's probably already started denaturing significantly, right? So so you're just wasting HCG either way. You're wasting it more so if you're getting more at a time, is what I would. That's what I think right now. That's what I think, in response to your question. Shoot for 5K IU. That's actually perfect, because you use what you use of it. And then as it starts to denature, you can just move on with another vial of it. You crack another vial of. That's the beauty of having source list, or just a place you can get HCG that's not from the clinics, that isn't super expensive. It's actually cheap as fuck. And you get a good deal, in the meantime. PPL, by the way, is the only place. There are other sources and sources of HCG. PPL's the best regarding price and quantity and all that stuff. It's just absolutely positively what you want to use. It's what you want to use, boys. Yep. All right. As I said, guys, Sourceless is 30% off right now. It's not going to be for long. Well, I'll have to take the special down at some point, because can't keep it up forever. But right now it's 30% off. So just go get it if you need it. It is updated with 3 new vendors, which contain hundreds of additional products. And there's one that is pretty exclusively an orals vendor. And that's fucking useful. Jordan G Unit with the super chat. Thanks, brother. Now I exclusively use sources and no longer clinics. I need to do my own blood work. Yes, I use 30 milligrams test prop a day, 300 IU HCG, 4x a week, 12 per viron a day. Love that. What are the most important markers to watch regarding blood work? In this case, not a whole lot. You just watch your lipids. Proviron's pretty lipid friendly, generally speaking. But, it has the ability, just because it's a very potent androgen, to mess with lipids a little bit. So if you need to be taking some red yeast rice extract, is that what it is? Some D-limonene, some citrus bergamot, doing some cardio to keep your lipids in check, then blood work would tell you whether or not you need to do that. Yeah, but 30 milligrams prop a day and this amount of HCG and 12 per viron looks like a pretty goddamn good protocol, because it's unlikely you're going to aromatize past your zone on this. You'd be hard pressed to aromatize past your zone on this, which I think is really awesome. Yeah, generally the set it and forget it prop dose is between 15 and 25 milligrams a day. That's the set it and forget it dose, meaning you won't aromatize past your range as long as you're pretty healthy and you're not over aromatizing as a default, because you have limited 5-alpha reductase enzymes, a inclination your body does to produce more estrogen versus DHT. Yep, 15 to 25. So you're right on that edge. Now, using Proviron to kind of compensate for the 5 milligrams more of prop is a smart idea. Smart idea. But LDL, HDL, apolipoprotein B, those are the things to watch. Otherwise, not going to fuck with your liver. Not going to mess with anything else. James, sourceless is fire. I love that. Samuel, why don't you make a ChatGPT bot for your subscribers that we can pay for monthly? Can you do that? Can you do that? Because I would. I would absolutely do that. I would absolutely do that. Hector, I'm on 16 milligrams daily of testosterone. Okay. 150 IU of HDL. That's pretty good. Took one shot of 50 milligrams Primo last week and penis felt numb. Yep. It killed your estrogen. Yep. It killed your estrogen. Sensation came back after 1 week. That's all it did. It did two things. It killed your estrogen via its converts to a metabolite that is an AI. Primo does. It's an intermediary. And the DHT-like effect downregulated aromatase gene expression, the CYP19A1 or 1A, something to this effect. It's the gene that tells aromatase enzymes to create. It instructs them on what to do. So that's why that happens. That happens. Too much Primo will nuke my libido too. Too much Masteron will nuke it. Too much AI will nuke it. Yeah, the right amount of everything, and it's perfect, though. That's why you have to be real careful. And you can't just haphazardly go about injecting DHT derivatives, like, oh, let me just inject 100 milligrams of whatever, or 200. You know, you got to have a fast-acting ester that peaks test and estradiol, like, pretty high, at least at its peak, in order to tolerate higher amounts of Masteron, like 210 milligrams of test prop a week, which will peak everything high. And then you can tolerate more Masteron and not crush the estrogen. But definitely this is a case where it's too much Primo. It's too much Primo. You're only on 16 milligrams of testosterone, which is like, it's 112 milligrams a week, I believe, of test. You can't be using that much Primo. That's like crushing your estrogen. Jordan, protocol's been killer. I rock the citrus bergamot per Vigorous Steve. Hell yeah. Last lipid check while on the protocol was perfect. They thought I was on statins. Wonderful. So you probably keep everything the same. But here's an example, guys, of just somebody doing it right. He's on 30 milligrams of prop a day. The sweet spot range of a set it and forget it with prop is 15 to 25 milligrams a day. Means usually people can get away with taking that dose unless they're an over responder and TT shoots too high and E2 shoots too high. And E2 doesn't go too high. I'm that way. 25 milligrams, I'm right in that borderline a day. But he's 5 milligrams over that at 30 milligrams a day, but he's taken Proviron to cause a little bit less aromatization and some more of the DHT-like effect. So protocol is killer. That's fucking awesome. That's fucking awesome. Guy doesn't have to be on loads of test. 30 a day is in fact 210 a week. But with prop, considering it leaves your body quickly, that's not a lot. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I'm happy for you, bro. Adam, bad binge drunk for years. Self-medicated, been sober for over 6 months. Right, self-medicated, got it. Social anxiety, feel depressed, wanting to try cerebral lysin, oxytocin, or C-Max. What would you start with? I wouldn't start with either of those, man. I wouldn't start with either of those. I would get your hormones straight. I would get on testosterone. That's what I would do. Honestly, it sounds like I might be saying it's the solution to everything, but it is. It's documented, reduces depressive symptoms or eliminates them. DHT itself is an antidepressant. It's so fucking powerful at doing that. And sex hormones modulate neurotransmitters more than you could take something acutely that has a 4 to 6 hour half-life could ever. You want sustainable effects on neurotransmitters? Hormones are the answer. Did the natty police show up? Yeah, there was someone at the door. I had to sign for a package, silly. Andor, DHT gel or HRT-based test cream for more DHT. Both work. Both work. The DHT gel, it works better, obviously, but better isn't always better because DHT too much in an imbalanced protocol, meaning it not enough estrogen for that, can crush estrogen. Like we just had a guy on 112 milligrams a week that took 50 of Primo just as an experiment and crushed his libido. It's too much DHT-like action preventing estrogen and aromatase gene expression. So in the regard that you're dosing pretty low on test, you have to scale the DHT dose proportionately. So it's got to be a low DHT dose, real low, real low, like equivalent of 5 milligrams a day or so, 5 milligrams every other day, just on the testicles or the shaft, and then you'd probably be okay. Where test cream comes in and might be better for some people is that it's just lower concentration of DHT. You get lower amounts of DHT, but still a lot. DHT itself is direct DHT. So it's different. It's different. It all depends on what you're trying to do. The lower the dose of your test is, the more cream is going to be useful, just because it's harder to overshoot the DHT. But you could still make DHT gel work in that case. You just got to microdose it. My take on dutasteride for hair loss prevention. Don't take it. I've seen men's lives ruined from it. That's my take. Nemo, thank you for the super chat. Brethren. Maddie McClanahan, just saw your video on test prop, master on prop. Yeah, that was just yesterday. Could someone stay on this TRT protocol indefinitely? As long as the masteron does not negatively skew their lipid profile. Yeah, which you can take. You can take things and have a lifestyle that facilitates a good lipid profile. You know, like if masteron's going to fuck with your lipids, you take like a little bit of a hit. You got to compensate for that otherwise. You know, it might mean you drink a little less. Might mean, you know, you not the saturated fat specifically like causes this, but you probably want to eat a little less of it. You know, and you want to move your body in a cardiovascular exercise kind of way, as much as you can. Lifting weights will help, but moving cardio-wise really helps that stuff. And eat a lot of fruit and vegetables. If you have to get a NutriBullet for $80 and blend them all and put some ice in it and put some yogurt, do that. PD, currently on TRT cream, but crashed my E to under 20. When my E is crashed, what's your advice on bringing it back to the sweet spot, which is usually 20 to 40? See, this is an example of how effective cream can be because, all that DHT can do this. It can do that. One time I put 6 pumps of 200 milligrams per milliliter, and I had such crashed estrogen feels. It was like I had 0 libido, and I had ED from that much cream because it was just too much DHT and not enough E2. That happens too. So if I were you here, man, I would just use HCG and try to, because that's the answer. And you might need to dose like 350 a day and shit, maybe more. Is it a myth that DHT grows the prostate? No, it's not necessarily a myth. It's that what people have to understand is that studies have been done on this, and you can't just take the gospel for truth. Studies have been done on it, and what they show is that the prostate regulates its own level of DHT despite what's in your blood. So it's not like dumping a bunch of DHT in your body is going to change the prostate's DHT quantity. It doesn't. The thing that affects the prostate more so than DHT is estrogen. That's just proven. Thanks for speaking of the truth on 5-hour blockers. I had PS16 damage from Accutane that DHT helped with. Yes, it always will. You're welcome. It's just something I've seen for years. To me, it's not controversial. There's no question about it. I'm not going to debate anyone. I already know the truth about 5-alpha reductase inhibitors. I already know. I already know. And you do too. And I'm happy for you that DHT helped. Paul, mastering test C, awesome breakdown. Trying 200 tests C, 100 of Primo, HED, 140 IU every day. First week of this. Want to add 10 milligrams Anavar all Primo. I think the Anavar is going to be inconsequential to the protocol, so you should be fine doing that. Yeah, it's just going to make you, you're going to just see a better physique from that. Anavar is fucking awesome. I want to go back on it. I have it. Yeah, I mean, I'm probably likely to go on it at some point soon again. Nemo, thanks for the super chat, brother. I really appreciate that. Looking to hop on 200 IU HCG and 40 milligrams DHEA daily, and then bring in 10 milligrams DHEA daily. Do you think that the high DHT is too high for the HCG? I think so, yeah. I think that would probably crush estrogen a little. If you're not on an injectable aromatizable androgen, that might crush the estrogen a little too much. Yeah. Or what's going to happen is this will be fine for like a month, and then you'll be popping boners like a madman, and then they'll stop. And that's because you just blocked estrogen too much. It got too low. 200 IU HCG, I mean, is that a week? Or is that daily? Yeah, that would be 1,400 IU HCG a week, which is all right. It's all right. But you might want to try 5 milligrams DHT in this case and not 10, because you just don't want to. You don't want to crush. You don't want to crush the estrogen, if you will. Again, it does it in an indirect way. It's not an aromatase inhibitor. You don't want to do that too much. You just don't want to do that too much. If I were you, I would just have test in your protocol. Is increasing libido too much on DHT dangerous? I mean, not unless you feel like you're going to turn into a sex addict. I don't think so. No. You can always dial it down, dial it back if you have to. Yeah. I can control myself, but it's a lot harder to contain myself, you know, when I'm with my chick and when DHT is doing what it does, which is make me super horny. It's harder to contain myself, but I can still have self-control, you know. I'm not going to become a sex addict and join a swingers club. Or I wouldn't do that anyway. Morally, it's fucking disgusting. And I'm in a committed relationship, so I don't do that shit. I take that very seriously. But no, it's not dangerous. You want it. You want that generally. You want it. Is it bothersome a little bit? Yeah, sometimes. It might be bothersome when, you know, you're around your girl but her family is there and the DHT is driving you to just want to take her somewhere and put her on her knees and go to town, and you can't. So otherwise, no, it's not dangerous. It's not dangerous. All right, boys, I got a jet. Great stream. Great fucking questions. If you guys have more questions, save them for next Saturday. We'll do another stream at between 9 and 11 a.m. Sourceless is 30% off. It is on the screen. That is a major discount from where it usually is. That discount will go away soon, and the Sourceless itself is going to be taken down and then back up at some other point later and whatever. So it has been updated with 3 new vendors, which offer hundreds of more additional products, including HMG, by the way, which wasn't on the previous source list. It is a different source list. And you can save money on it right now. So use that code. Link is down in the description of this video. Thanks for the questions. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. And this week we'll be doing probably Monday, Wednesday, Friday content. I got a lot of cool content lined up. So look forward to that. Like the video if you could for me. It makes a difference. It really does. It makes it more of a difference than most things. Like comments help and shit. You know, sharing it on social. I'm not asking you to do that. You know, I know that's a bit of a pain in the ass, but it would be cool if you could. But really, just like the video. If you can do anything for me, just like the video. Means a lot. Means a lot. Otherwise, boys, kick ass, rock on, enjoy your weekend. Talk to you soon. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.